All right, check it out. I've got the Digitech Trio Plus. Now, years ago, I had the original Trio, and I used it quite a bit, to be honest. When I moved here to North Carolina, which I think I'm going on 7 years, 7 or 8 years, I sold it off pretty much right away, and proceeded to kind of transition into just doing rhythmic delays. I've always wanted one of these, but to be honest, they're kind of pricey. I think brand new they're $400, and that would be the same price as like a Brothers AM. Which, by the way, on the Brothers AM, I think the wait time is still 6 to 8 weeks on that. So what's the deal with the Brothers AM right now? For those of you Chase Bliss fanboys, who, by the way, when it comes to my channel, are the pickiest commenters are the Chase Bliss guys. I don't know why, because my dealings with Chase Bliss, they've always been very cool with me whenever I've had, I really haven't had any major issues, but I've had minor issues and questions. But back to the Trio Plus. So what this does, if you're not familiar with it, is you play into it, and then it creates a drums and bass background. Now, the nice thing about the Trio Plus here is it also has a looper, so you can record a rhythm into it. Now, for my setting, because I'm not tracking, part of the reason I'm not tracking is, first off, I did that for 20 years. And the thing with tracking is for me at this point, is to get it right, you got to spend a lot of time, in the way my life is now, especially since I've moved away from all of my friends and my musical connections. I have to be kind of a self-contained bubble here, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But so I've transitioned from a home studio, so to speak, to a kind of a live capture environment, which has been a lot of fun, to be honest, because there's been a lot of learning there, because I've never really did live sound. I only did studio stuff. Obviously, I'm applying a lot of what I learned, because I started recording almost exactly the same time as I started playing guitar. And in this environment, I've got a pretty cool sit down, turn everything on, go, ready, set environment, get out and be real satisfied. I really love the way this setup is now for me, just creatively, and because I love the creative process. So it's not just playing guitar for me, it's getting all this equipment to work together and coming out with the recording. Most of my YouTube videos are really just a means to document my experiments, so to speak, my mad scientist stuff. So the front end of things has not changed. I'm going into the Airchild compressor, which, by the way, I've decided I'm going to be loyal to Strymon, because they're the only well-known person or manufacturer that subscribed to my channel. So thank you for that, Strymon. It really motivated me to rethink about brand loyalty. I've been in retail for going on 37 years. Brand loyalty is almost non-existent these days. And, to have somebody, subscribe me, whether they're paying attention or not, I don't care. But just to give a vote of confidence in me and my environment and what I'm doing inspires some brand loyalty on my part. So I'm trying to transition into Strymon stuff. So I have an OB1 coming. I love optical compressors. I've never tried the OB1. It was the first pedal Strymon ever released. My thought is it's probably going to be great. But until that comes, I've got the Airchild compressor into the Brothers AM that may turn into a Riverside, into my Fender Bass Breaker 45, into the Two Notes Captor. By the way, I'm running that Bass Breaker 45 through a brown box, running at about 118 volts. I just don't want to deal with changing tubes. There is a volume pedal on the floor, by the way, after the Brothers and before the amp. Coming into channel 1 on the SSL6, and I have 2 effect sends on it. So the first effect send is going out to the Volante, back into stereo channel 3-4, and then stereo effect 2 is going out to the Trio here, back in through stereo channel 5 and 6. That way I can keep my crazy delays separate from the bass and drum tracks, which we're about to experience. And then what I did, because I have the Neve 88M, is I put the Night Sky in the effects loop of the 88M, so I can use the reverb on the bass and the drums, as well as the delayed guitar coming out. I'm keeping channel 1 muted, so you're only hearing the 2 effect sends. And then we're going into my OBS software from the 88M. And the only thing I'm running in as far as plugins go is really just a limiter at the end to get it up to YouTube LUF standard. So I'm going to mute the mic here, and I've played with this a little bit just to make sure my levels are as close as I'd like, but I'm just going to create a rhythm here and then experiment. Now you can do a lot of stuff with this. I'm not going to mess with that today, partly because I don't know how to use this thing yet. I do have the foot pedal. I found one of these trios used with the foot pedal as well. But right now I'm not going to mess with that. I'm just going to set a little loop up and do a little jamming over it and see what kind of sounds I can get. So this should be a lot of fun, because for those of you who've been critical in the fact that I'm just making noise, fair enough. I'm an easy target, just as many of us low-level YouTubers are. Part of the reason I don't do arrangements and tracking and post-production is because I don't want to. It takes too much time. I want to get in and get out fast. So the trick is figuring out how to put something together that satisfies myself and itches that creative itch that I have. And hopefully, you find ideas in it. I'm not necessarily trying to entertain any of you as the viewers, but hopefully you look at what I'm doing and maybe find ideas that could apply for you and whatever creative itch you need to scratch. So let's just see if we can find a way to do some quick live or pseudo live bass drums and looping to create a rhythm section for myself to play over. This is the original Trio was great, and my initial impression of this is kind of a lot of fun as well. And again, I no doubt I'm going to go deeper into this at some point, but today let's just have some fun. Man, the OBS software, I really hate it when my shortcuts don't work. see if I can lay a little loop over this before I mess around with any of these other genres. Like a good old hip hop clap along. interesting that the folk rhythm is kind of mellow like that. Kind of digging the Latin rhythm. This is cool. This thing's going to push me in different directions. Kind of like in the jazz too. Seeing if I can get a little more output out of the limiter on the back end. Figure out mercy, mercy, mercy here. All right, pretty cool. I have to figure out, I'm getting preamp gain, I think, out of the Neve, but I've never used the effects loop in the Neve, so I'm going to have to do a little learning, because all my levels are good on the front end. All the levels are good on the inputs, on all the channels on the SSL. I'm not overloading anything. When I solo stuff, I'm not overloading anything, so the output of the Neve must be overloading the night sky. Now, I do have post drive on there, and I'm not necessarily running a clean reverb, but that's, part of the process, getting it dialed in. But in a general way, I owned one about 7-8 years ago, but I haven't even done a ton of reading. I printed out the manual, which I think is 60-page manual on this thing. I definitely want to get the foot switch hooked up, because you can go into song mode, and then I can even create arrangements on this. I'll loop, whatever, chorus, bridge, verse, bridge, chorus, etc., whatever. And then I can set it to play through that, and on the fly, ideally create songs. I don't know if it's going to be a while before I exercise those demons, but as far as, bringing me back to what I used to do, which was, compose and arrange and track stuff, this is like instant back in. I don't need to have any sort of DAW with a multi-tracking setup. I don't have to worry about monitoring with latency. I can monitor right at the output of the Neve 88M. I try and monitor as far as I can to the destination without latency, and the Neve is as far as I'm willing to go without having to fight latency. So very cool. I'll probably bring in the HX effects again. But I'm using my Chox DC7 for power, and I've got all 7 ports used. This thing takes 800 milliamps, which is a little more than one output can do with the Chox DC7. I have a DC, I can link them together, but we'll see if I miss the HX effects, some of the wacky effects. The shuffling looper is the big one on the HX effects for me. I really love the shuffling looper on that thing. But I can do the sound on sound still with the Volante. I can even add in tremolo effects with the Night Sky by modifying the modulation on it. I should be able to scratch every itch possible with this setup. It's funny because I call this simple. I look at this and it's ridiculous, but compared to a pedal board, which in contrast is extremely limiting, having the SSL6 has really empowered me to instantly realize these ideas. And that's a big obstacle to creativity to me, is if I have an idea, great, now I got to order a cable or a splitter or a buffer or a parallel mixer, whatever it might be, and wait for it before I scratch a creative itch. With the SSL6, I don't have to do that. All I got to do is think through how I want to send the signal, and I can achieve it, which is exactly what I did today. I was able to put the Night Sky through the effects loop on the 88M. I was able to send my second effects send through the Trio. I was able to keep my Volante going through the other effects send. And then obviously on the front end of the amp, I've got my compression and gain and volume. I've also got my bus compression on the output of the 6. I can monitor without my computer. I can listen to what I'm doing without having power to my interface. Any idea I may have, I can realize instantly, and that's really what I'm going for with this setup. And it's extremely satisfying in a short amount of time. It's not one of those deals where you're working, and then you look up and what's that light? Oh, it's a sunrise. You know, that's not the point in my life I'm at right now. I want to get in here 20 minutes. What are we at here? 28 minutes, a half hour. Extremely satisfied with the simple little loop I put together there. And I got a quick taste of all the different genres on there. And, can just immediately change the tempo without changing the pitch. I don't know if you noticed that. It looks like they call it audio elastic, but I need to read the manual. You can change the time. It looks like you flip it into double time, but I thought you could also flip it into half time. I got to figure out that. There's a simple bass button here, which will just bring it back to very simple bass background. Looks like there's 2 versions of it, green and red or off. So I'm a little curious as to what kind of options I have in that regard. But unbelievable pedal. I was able to get this used with the foot switch. Thank you to the guy in Reverb. I made him an offer, but he counter-offered, and I thought it was a fair offer. I love it. There's still good people on Reverb, by the way. It's not just a bunch of lowballers trying to resell stuff. And this one, again, for half the price of some frou-frou pedal, you can have this almost an instant gratification pedal, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. And one other thing that I got to get into, I haven't mentioned here, is up in the upper left here. In my memory, my other Trio actually had really good sounding guitar effects on it. Usually one of them's like a rhythm sound and the other one is kind of a lead sound. But if my memory serves me right, my original Trio, really, the effects on there were really good. Not that I need them, but that, again, yet another option. Or if you don't have it as an elaborate setup as I have, you could potentially get a lot of mileage out of this thing. And by the way, there's a mixer output on this. There's an amp output on this. I believe that those, let me think about this. I got to read on it, but one of them or both of them have a speaker emulation assigned to them, but they go out in mono. The reason I'm going out of, and I don't know if you can see it from here, I'm going out of the headphone output on this thing because it's a stereo output, because I'm going to the stereo input on the SSL6. So, which means I can control, there's also a little volume back there. So Again, just hooked it up. I spent more time printing out the manual than I have using it at this point, only because I had to change a toner on our stupid printer to get it finished printing out the 60 pages. But very cool, awesome setup. With the exception, again, I'm trying to, because I'm a retail guy, I've been a retail my whole life. Brand loyalty means something. And you almost have to credit Sweetwater for kind of creating brand loyalty. They're not charging any less. Their shipping is good. I've even, had very clear instances where their advertised weights were not actually what came. But many of us feel brand loyal to them, whereas shopping at our local guitar store is probably, or music store is probably a better choice. You get much better service when you know the guy who's taking care of you. In fact, my first trio I bought was Glenn at the Music Center in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I think he sold it to me brand new for $50. Only because I had shopped there for years and years and years, and he knew I was going to come back and spend money. So all he was doing, rather than trying to make a dollar off of me, is he was trying to create some brand loyalty, i.e. that particular music store in my hometown. So I want to be, bring it back to this, is I want to be loyal to Strymon only because they just acknowledge me by subscribing to my channel. Again, who cares if they even pay attention to what I'm doing? I think there should be a greater push not to recreate the soulful stylings of John Mayer, but maybe to, for those of us that are just trying to scratch that creative itch, maybe a little more brand loyal. So having said that, there you go. One of the last pieces, I originally bought this SSL6 with something like this in mind, where I could create my own little arrangements without getting too far into the tracking side of things. I used to spend hours and hours and hours just programming my SR16. If for those of you out there that may or may not have used some of the earlier drum machines, that was an Alesis product. It was called an SR16 or the HR16B. Very labor intensive. It was a luxury just to quantize rhythms that you're trying to play into the thing. Here, I didn't even have to think about it. I played the basic rhythm. And again, the foot switch is going to be more important once I get it hooked up for punching in and punching out. But I'm excited. It's pretty cool. I finally got this set up pretty much to where I envisioned it. It's been a long, slow process, only because I'm partly resisting it. I don't want to get stuck doing this for 8-9 hours at a time, because I have a life to live. But there you go. So hopefully you saw something you may not have seen before, or have an idea you might not have had before. But in any case, definitely look for me posting a lot of videos with some bass and drums on them now, which is always been my vision anyway. It's what I did for the first 28 years of my playing. Just kind of got out of it. It's always more fun doing it with your friends and by yourself, but this is pretty satisfying too. So until next time.